almost record the entire Chumash and Rashi. Very beautiful. Today is Wednesday, and a very powerful Chumash today. We're going to end. You have to stay tuned to the whole Chumash. And the message we're going to say is that, my friends, in life, don't try to figure out and predict the future and what's going to happen. You got to let go and allow Hashem to know what's going to happen. And he gets into, because in the olden days, people really wanted to know what's going to happen. So they would go to all kinds of sorcery. We're going to learn about this armpit that they would raise the dead, and they would find ways to communicate, to try and figure out the future. And we're going to end today's Chumash, today's message, with a very powerful message. Is Tamim Tiyeh. You should let go. Just be pure. Be perfect. Be pure. Let Hashem run the show. Let Hashem be in control, and stop trying to figure out and predict the future. So that is the beautiful message from today's Chumash. But first, we are learning about the Kohanim and the Levim, and we're going to learn about an interesting question with the Kohanim. So let's take Yehuda, for example, our Kohen. So how did it work? As you know, when the Beis Hamikdash started, and Yehuda's great grandfather Aaron, the high priest, there was only one or two Kohanim there. Thousands of other Jews, a lot of Levites and a lot of regular Yisrael Jews, but there were very few Kohanim. But as the Kohanim are going to grow and grow and grow, there's going to become a question and an issue that will come up. Do all the Kohanim serve in the temple at the same time? Like they're on duty 24/7 every day of the year for the entire year? Or we're going to learn about that King David, together with the prophet Shmuel, will create a list of whose week is it. So Yehuda will get maybe 2 weeks out of the year. It'll be Yehuda and his family's Kohen turn to be the Kohen for that period of time. So the interesting question today we're dealing with is, can Yehuda ever jump in? And if it's someone else's turn, can he jump in and help out in another shift? So there'll be two exemptions where Yehuda can jump in, even though it's not his week. And they are either if Yehuda's bringing his own sacrifice, if he's bringing his own korban, Yehuda is allowed to jump into another Kohen's week and bring his own sacrifice, even though it's not his week to serve. He can serve as if it's his own sacrifice, and I believe you can get the benefits from the sacrifice, whatever the Kohen gets. Look, I'm a Kohen, I could get in, I could do the job, I'm licensed, I'm allowed to do this. He can jump in at any point and bring his own sacrifice. In addition, on the Chag, on the holidays, the 3 times a year that we had, Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuos, there was thousands of Jews came. All the Jews had to come, and they all brought tons of sacrifices. So any additional sacrifice associated with the extra holiday sacrifice, even if it wasn't your week, any Kohen could jump in and fill in and gain the benefits from that time. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because yesterday, if you remember yesterday's Chumash, we spoke about the Kohanim. Now we're going to learn about when a Kohen comes in, does he have free reign to jump into someone else's shift? Verse number 6, Vav. When the Levi will come from your gates, Mikol Yisrael, from all the areas, from where they lived, Asher Hugar Sham, from wherever he lives, Uva b'chalavas nafshay, and the Levite comes, and he's a guy that could serve. He's not a blemished guy, as Rashi says. And he wants to jump in as not his time. To the place that Hashem will choose, because God never chose Jerusalem yet when the Torah is being given, at this point when Moses is speaking to the Jewish people. And this guy, Levi, or a Kohen, who's from the tribe of Levi, shows up. And he wants to serve in the Beis Hamikdash at a time that's really not his allotted time. And the Shares b'Shem Hashem Elikav, if it's his own sacrifice that he's bringing, he can jump in on not his week. He could jump in the name of Hashem, his God, like all his brothers, the Levites, that are standing there to serve before Hashem. So it's not his week. It's his cousins. It's not his family. It's not his group. It's not his time that he's supposed to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. But the Torah tells us that if he's bringing his own sacrifice, it's okay for him to jump in and bring his own sacrifice. Look, I'm bringing my own sacrifice. Move aside. Let me take care of this. I'm a Kohen. I could bring my own sacrifice. I don't have to give it to you because it's your week. I'm a Kohen and I could jump in too. The other time Rashi tells us here also, as I mentioned, is if it is the Musaf, on the holiday Musaf sacrifice. So it's Pesach, and they're bringing the Musaf, the extra sacrifice, which was called the Musaf sacrifice on Pesach. And he says, look, jumps in, joins everybody else, even though it's not his shift, it's not his week, it doesn't matter. He could jump in and assist with those specific sacrifices and actually get the skins and the meat of certain sacrifices. He can get the reward and the portion from the additional sacrifice of the holiday. Verse 8, equal portions from those sacrifices, the skins and the meats of the goat that the Kohanim ate. He jumps in as long as it's the special holiday sacrifice. Nothing else, just the special Musaf holiday sacrifice. The Vadmi Mikarav ala Avaitz, except which was sold by the forefathers. What does it mean, sold by the forefathers? And I started explaining to you that all the Kohanim had the rights to everything. At some point, the Kohanim had to say, look, we're a lot of people. Let's make a deal. Let's make a transaction. I get this week, and whatever comes in this week is mine. And whatever comes in your week is yours. That's the business plan that we're going to take here. And everyone will have that. In the times of David and King Shmuel, when the Kohanim became a lot, they ended up making a split, and everybody got their week. And the deal was, not everybody owns everything. Everybody only owns the rights to their week. Besides for the two exemptions that we mentioned above. Verse 9, you're coming to the land now. Moshe is telling the Jews, right? He's going to pass away. You're going to go into the land of Israel. And now he's going to tell them, do not learn from the goyim of the places you're going into, the abominations that they had. Do not go to their schools and their ways of thought and their religious places. You shouldn't learn from them. A Jew should not be studying and learning the things that the non-Jewish religion is teaching them. Now, Rashi says there is an exemption, though. There is a time where it is the time and place for a Jew to learn about other people's religions, the other religions. And when is that? To know what not to do. For example, witchcraft is prohibited. Well, how do I know if the person's doing witchcraft or not? I got to learn what witchcraft is. How do I know to tell my kids what they shouldn't do? So I have to know what to tell my kids not to do. So there is a time and place when it is important to know, but beyond that, not. You shouldn't be like, a lot of times Jews say, not a lot of times, sometimes people say, I have to know that all other religions are not true in order to know that my religion is true. That's not correct. We know Judaism is true because we know it's true. We pass it down from father to son. We know that it's true. I don't have to know every religion to know it's not true. So then why does sometimes the Torah teach us about the other religions, or Maimonides teach us in the laws of idol worship about the things that we're not allowed to do? And the answer is because sometimes you have to know just what not to do and what you have to tell your kids not to do and so on. So here the Torah is going to now tell us what are the things that you're not allowed to do. And they're going to tell us, don't do it because the non-Jews were kicked out of Israel for this reason, but a Jew does not behave like that when he wants to live in Israel and live a peaceful whole life. He can't live like that. He has to rely on Hashem and not try to figure out the destiny in the future. And he's going to go through the short list over here. Number 10, verse Yud. You shouldn't be found among you Mavir b'noi ubitoi be'esh, a person that passes his son or his daughter through the fire. Rashi tells us that there was an idol, an avodah zarah, a kind of idolatry called the molech idolatry. And what was the way of serving it? They would light two flames of fire, and they would pass the child between the two flames of fire. Either the father would do it, or some of the commentaries say it was the priest that would do it. But Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Jews, don't do this. This is not for Jewish people. We're going to Israel. Do not copy them. Don't think you're going to move to the land and start copying them. Don't emulate them. Koisem Kesamim. The next one is Koisem Kesamim, divination. What does that mean? Koisem Kesamim. Those are any kind of fortune telling. You ever see actually was with Hanala in Philly, and there was like someone who will read your future or your palm or whatever. I get maybe some palm bring me as a science, I don't know. But fortune telling, they're going to start telling you your fortune, what's going to happen in the future. Rashi gives an example, like a stick. They drop a stick and the stick falls down and they say, oh, now we know that you're going to go this way or that way. You shouldn't go, you shouldn't go. The stick will tell us. Sticks are telling people, imagine that, what to do in life. And that is considered koisem samim, and that is prohibited for a Jew to drop a stick or try some ways to fortune tell, that is what the Goyim who lived in Eretz Yisrael did. You should not do that. You shouldn't be a ma'oinen. What is a ma'oinen? Ma'oinen, he wants to translate as predicts auspicious times. What does that mean? It's a debate here actually between two scholars, Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, the scholars, what exactly this divination, diviner of auspicious times means. One of them is, he says, this is a good time to go, or this is a not a good time to go. They could look in the planets or the stars or whatever, and they're like, listen, this is a negative energy day. You shouldn't be doing this on that day. You know, I guess if Allah and Torah tells you, then obviously it is. But people who want to say soothsayers by times, and that is where Rabbi Akiva says the meaning of ma'oinin is you cannot do that kind of stuff that's prohibited for a Jew to do. Rabbis say, it talks about magicians who do optical illusions, but they don't tell you that it's an optical illusion. They pretend like they have some real kinds of magic. That is prohibited. Menachesh. Menachesh is, I would say, a more common one that people might do. They say, oh, my bread fell out of my mouth. Or the deer, Rashi brings another example, cut me off. Or my stick fell. Or let's talk about modern day examples. A black cat crossed my path. Or a mirror broke, right? Oh, all of a sudden, this means this. That's called a menachesh, somebody who is interpreting omens, and that is prohibited for a Jew. And finally, mechashav, the last one is a sorcerer, is also prohibited. I know, like, my parents were very strict in this thing, so they wouldn't even, which is not the same, I believe my in-laws did do this, is like, you know, when you lose a tooth, and you tell the kid that the fairy is going to come. I've seen many people do it, but my parents didn't do that because they didn't want the kids to believe. It's probably not prohibited, specifically that case. They don't want the kid to believe in these things that, you know, you put your tooth there and somebody shows up and gives $1. Many people do it, but I can see why the people who don't do it, they're concerned with all these kinds of things that people that kind of get in touch and make decisions based on other energies in the world. It's prohibited from Pasuk number Yud. I just bring you that example of tooth, even though it's not really the case here, because it happened last night at my house. One of my kids lost a tooth, and I said, we don't do that. I'll give you $1, but don't leave your tooth under your pillow, and then we're going to give you $1 because of it. Okay, verse 11. And someone who is a charmer. I don't know, some kind of charming thing that they would gather snakes and scorpions together. Maybe it was like into one place. Now, the commentaries here also said that, you know, if someone's scared of a danger and it's a real danger, and the person it might not even be true. You understand? It's in your brain, it's in your head, like, oh, no snakes are going to bite me. You know, there's certain areas it's very dangerous, like in the desert or so, when you're scared of these snakes and scorpions, the person calms down, even though it's not true. They're just trying to make the person feel better. It might be okay if it's a real dangerous situation, but as a whole, you can't use this kind of, even if it's not real sorcery, to pretend like you're gathering the snakes and the scorpions to one area. V'shayel oiv, there's a famous one called oiv. It was a kind of idol worship. Rashi says it was called pitoim. And the guy would speak out of his armpit. He would raise the dead somehow, and the dead would speak through the sorcerer's armpit. I don't know if there are TV shows, which people have shown me in the past, that they kind of get in touch with the dead. I would think that is this, and it's not speaking out of their armpit, but kind of sounds a little bit like, I don't even know if it's probably not even real, but even to fake it or so on, it seems like this would be a violation of this verse 11 with this kind of idea. So they used to have some kind of black magic that was some real energy. It's very interesting that they would be able to get in touch with, and they would have out of their armpit, they would speak. It's pretty fascinating. That was called the oiv idolatry. Then there was the Yedoini. Yedoini was another one. He would stick a bone of a bird called Yedoini into their mouth, and the bone would speak through witchcraft. So another kind of a bone, maybe of a dead body or something, or some bird or something, they would stick into the mouth, and the person would start to speak. Again, getting in touch with trying to figure out the future, or things that God did not put in the world for us to know, trying to figure out things that are not meant to know. We're not meant to know the future, what's going to happen. And Derish Alamesim, and speaking to the, what is it called? Necromancers, it's speaking to the dead. For example, there was a way that they would speak through their male organ. The dead spirit would come into his membrane, his male organ, or to a skull, and there was ways that they would speak through the skull and so on. I don't really think we have this stuff today, but it was a thing in the past, and those are all prohibited. You should not learn, Moshe Rabbeinu says, because all those that do these things, it's an abomination, it's disgusting by Hashem. Even if you do only one of them, Rashi says, it's not like you do all of them to be involved in this dirty black magic, but anything. It's because of these disgusting things, these abominations. Hashem kicked them out from before you. So don't do it. This is not how a Yid behaves. It's not how a Jew behaves. So how does a Jew behave? He finishes in the last verse of today's Chumash. Verse 13. Tamim tiya im Hashem elikecha. You should be wholehearted with Hashem, your God. And let me read what Rashi says here. His halachim betumis, walk, conduct yourself with him in simplicity. And wait for him to bring the future, what it brings. Don't inquire about the future. But anything that happens to you, kabel betumis, accept it, unadulterated simplicity, and then you will be Hashem's portion. So stop climbing into all these things and trying to figure out the future and predicting stuff. That is not a Yid. That's not Yiddishkeit. A Jew has Hashem, and Hashem runs the world, and you have to let go and allow Hashem to run the show. These things, I guess, I would say, are not for you to see. That's why Hashem didn't make them in the open. It's not because you should start getting all kinds of old witchcraft and so on. It's not meant for you. You're not supposed to know it. That's why you don't know it. And that's why Hashem chased out the other nations from Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, you make sure not to learn. You're going there to that area. Make sure you don't start learning and copying those things that they are doing. That is the end of today's Chumash.